What's happening, people? Welcome back to the podcast. Now, we're back today with another solo episode. I know we're mixing between talking absolute nonsense with the likes of James and Dale, then there's like proper, insightful, helpful podcasts, but that's the way it goes. Some people are going to listen to the really helpful stuff whilst they're in the gym, and then some people just want to listen to all of us talk about like dating. And that's absolutely fine as well. But at the end of the day, I'm a PT. Most of my friends are PTs. So we're going to try hit the main topics that people struggle with as well. Now, before we get into the episode, if you can give me a rating on Spotify, that would really help. We're aiming for 500 this year. I'm going all in on the podcast. I'm not doing reels or anything anymore. I can't be bothered with social media in general. See, short form stuff, I don't watch it anymore. I'm done with it. I've muted most people. I've unfollowed the majority of other people, and I haven't watched apart from my proper mates, I haven't watched any PTs short form videos in about 2 months, I would say, and I feel $1 million for it because everyone's spouting the same absolute shite and trying to get views and like all of this, and I just can't be bothered with it anymore, and my head feels fantastic for it. And podcasting is what I actually enjoy doing. I enjoy making the clips. I even enjoy the solo ones. I enjoy actually going into the nuance of topics because you can't do that in short form, and I know for a fact these impact people way more. You're not going to learn on Instagram. You're not going to figure out really what to do with your nutrition on Instagram. You're not really going to understand what to do in the gym from Instagram or TikTok or any of these places. The best thing to do is listen to podcasts, watch YouTube videos, get a coach, and actually like commit to learning. I know not everyone's going to do that, but I don't care about the people that aren't willing to do that because I want to actually properly impact people when I go into details about stuff. I hate like videos without nuance because it doesn't apply to everyone. Even this podcast, right? I've went into as much nuance as possible, and there's still going to be people that are like, this doesn't apply to me. So you have to listen to it and be like, try to take everything that you can and apply it. And if there's something that doesn't apply to you, you might need to work your way around that. But this is the best sort of solution I can give you. Right. Anyway, rate the podcast if you're on YouTube, like and subscribe. I'm hitting the medium clips on YouTube as well. I'm going to do a YouTube course. I'm going to properly smash YouTube as well. So podcasting is my new thing. Well, it's not my new thing because I've done 85 episodes, but it's what I'm going to fully hammer home. Right. So this podcast, right, it's called How to Fix Your Diet in 4 Weeks. And I'm going to send it to new clients, but this is what I do with new clients. So if you just go and try uphaul how you eat and try put your calories into a calorie calculator, hit these protein goals, you're going to get overwhelmed very quickly. And we have this idea that food, you can't mess up your food. And we think it has, like every single choice we make has more of an impact on us than what it does. Obviously, an overall good diet is going to make you feel better. However, it doesn't need to be about every single choice you make. You're going to have choices in your diet that you make that are for the short-term pleasure of that moment wherever you are. And that's also fine. It's important to know that you can involve foods you love, but the main bulk of your food is going to be better choices to make you feel better. But the way you frame things is so important. So food is often an emotional thing. That these are the things I'm going to go through. So you're going to actually get a 4-week structure of how I fix clients food, not fix clients foods, how I sort of adapt my clients' diets to get them to hit goals. And if they can hit the goals that I set out for them, their diet is going to be better than 99% of the country. I always tell them that. They're like, oh, but I had a Kit Kat. I'm like, that's fine. Did you hit your protein, hit your fruit and veg? And like, yeah. And I'm like, your diet is sound. The Kit Kat was also part of that diet. You wanted it, gave you a bit of pleasure in the moment. Sometimes there's need for that as well. psychologically as well. There's so much more to food than just putting it in your mouth. How it psychologically affects you, how it affects your sleep, how it affects your current state there and then. Does it make you feel good? Does it not? How you speak to yourself after you eat it. There's so much that goes into your diet that people don't think about, and then they berate themselves for not making the perfect choice when the perfect choice doesn't exist. There's a million different options out there. How can there be a perfect choice for every meal? There can't. Right. So you've got the 4-week structure that I'm going to go through at the end. I'm also going to go through like calorie goals, how to set them. They're going to be very vague, and they're not going to be specific to weight loss. That's what I'm going to go through as well. I'm not trying to get any of my clients to lose weight in the first 4 weeks. If you ever want to lose weight and keep it off, you need to have a good relationship with food and a long-term goal that is probably going to be exercise based. Otherwise, you're just going to fall off the bandwagon. As humans, we need to see progression in something. Otherwise, we don't see the point. And if you lose weight, there's a certain point where you shouldn't be trying to lose weight anymore. If you've been viewing all your progress as weight loss, then you're just going to not see the point in anything anymore. You're going to go back to old habits and you're going to regain the weight. Again, this is a lot of this is to do with seeing progression in something, having a long-term focus. We need a focus as humans. That's how mental health issues start. We feel like there's no meaning in life anymore. Whereas the gym can often be a massive start for people feeling like they're doing something with themselves and there's a meaning to life. Like, not to get too deep, but genuinely, that's why so many people fall in love with the gym. And people look down on them, but that they've found some sort of meaning in life. How could you ever look down on someone for that? Anyway, so going to go through all of that sort of chat. And yeah, we're going to start with like, what have we got? 3 different things that I want to go through that are very important topics so you can get an overall feeling of why I have it set out the way I do. I've been coaching this is going to be now nearly 4 years of coaching. I used to get people to lose weight, like not quickly, as in I didn't starve them, but I would be targeting weight loss clients. I'd be getting them to lose weight, and I wasn't getting anywhere with them long term. That was the mistake I was making at the start. Whereas after learning that it's about a long-term focus for people, even if they don't see quick, sharp results like on the scale, etc. That's not what it's about. So without further ado, we're going to do this topic by topic, then go into the separate weeks, week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4, with specific advice on each week. So yeah, let's get into the first topic. So even though this podcast is specific to food, right, I want you to focus on the gym over your food intake. Now, this isn't going to be a whole caveat. I've hooked you in and I'm going to talk about how you should be going to the gym. It's just how the main focus is how you want to think about food, because your food, like I said, is never going to be perfect. There's going to be times that you emotionally eat, which we're going to go through as well. There's going to be times where you just feel terrible. There's going to be times where you've no option but to eat whatever's in front of you. Maybe you're on a work trip, maybe you're on holiday, maybe you're at your granny's, and your granny, you think, my gran, do you know what, she's probably got a year left, and she is forcing these jammy Dodgers. She is forcing me to eat these jammy Dodgers that I'm pretty sure are out of date. And do you know what? For the sake of the situation, you don't want your granny throwing a hot coffee in your face. You go, do you know what? I'm going to have the jammy Dodger to keep her happy. This is life. Genuinely, this is how your diet is going to look like sometimes. You can't stop these things from happening. What are you going to do? Sit in the house and be a recluse and refuse to go to any social situations ever? There's other consequences to that which will affect your diet. Loneliness, another massive impactor on, this is what I mean. Food is so complex. What you put in your mouth can often be inflicted by whatever situations you find yourself in. That's why you can't really berate yourself for food choices you make, because that beratement is half the problem. I don't want to touch on emotional eating just yet, but this is what I mean. So this is why the gym is a bigger focus on food, because the gym is going to have a higher impact on your mental health. It's going to have a higher impact on how you feel. It's something that pushes you out your comfort zone more than, say, tracking your food. And that's what we want to do. I'm not interested in people that maybe want to hear like one or two things or one or two food hacks that's going to make their diet better. I want people to genuinely feel better mentally, physically, want to improve their self-esteems. I want to make them feel more confident when they go out. And there's stuff they need to do in order to do that. You can't just outthink the thoughts you have in your head. You need to actually do something about it, and also work on those thoughts. So that's what I'm big on. That's why I went for therapy myself. That's why I try take topics and then compare them to something else, so people can see where their thought patterns are maybe a bit scatty, shall we say, and make them realize that just because they have done something one way, or they have #childhood trauma, which I've done podcasts on myself because I didn't have the greatest childhood myself, but it doesn't mean that that way of thinking that you currently have can't be changed, or you're stuck with however your mum or dad raised you. They're hard cycles to break, but they can be broken. Anyway, so with your food intake and treating the gym as your primary focus, right? So when we're thinking about this, I want you to be better in 5 years' time and 10 years' time. I don't care about, especially clients, I literally say to them blunt as fuck, I don't give a fuck what you look like in 12 weeks. Don't care what the scale says in 12 weeks. Might take you 6 months of breaking through barriers of self-sabotaging. It might take you quite a while to work up the courage of going to the gym, because you might be socially anxious, never mind having gym anxiety. We might have to break through those barriers to come into the gym in here where there's nobody else there. They start working out from home, those sort of things. And they also might have life obstacles in the way. They might have multiple kids, they might have a terrible job, they might be going through a divorce. You cannot come at things from, I'm going to do this by this date, because you don't know what is going to happen in life. That's why goals by a certain date sometimes aren't the best, unless you can set them and then not beat yourself up for not hitting them and just extend the time. And also with the gym, right, I'll often have clients, the ones that hit the ground running just because their life isn't that hectic at that time, they'll tell me in like 8 weeks' time, they'll be like, this is genuinely changing my life. And I often tell them, I'm like, look, I genuinely haven't done anything. I've gave you an outline and for the gym, like a program for beginners. And I've been teaching, so I do like form videos, then I get them in for in-person sessions as well, which are basically like workshops. So my whole program is called like Learn to Lift. So I teach people from scratch, like beginners from scratch, who are often people who come from dieting backgrounds and stuff as well, and are always weight loss, weight loss, weight loss. I teach them how to lift from scratch. And because I've gave them a structure to know what to do in the gym, they see quite a lot of progress in the start. So see, as a gym beginner, that's the most time you're ever going to see progress. And that progress gives people a lot of fulfillment that you can't get from, eating more protein or eating a bit of fruit and veg. Yeah, you might feel better, but sometimes you're like, do I feel better? And it takes you to actually start eating pretty terribly again to understand, oh, I was actually feeling miles better. And then sometimes you might not have your sleep on point yet, but if you focus on the gym first, it's the biggest thing you can do that's going to have a snowball effect on everything else. So if you focus on the gym first, might not build too much muscles. I don't like this whole, oh, you're going to build muscles, you're going to burn more calories, because that's not necessarily true. You burn about 6 calories more a day per pound of muscle you build. So that's a bit a bit of bollocks. However, someone who lifts weights and does put themselves in a position where they can potentially build muscle is living a much healthier lifestyle. So the way I frame it is like, if you are pushing yourself enough in the gym, you're going to want to eat more protein. Eating more protein is going to make you also burn a wee bit more calories, because we burn more calories digesting protein than we do carbs and fats. So that is honourable enough to mention. It does make enough of a difference. It's not going to change your life, but it's enough to mention. Then you're probably going to sleep better. You're probably going to have better habits. You're probably going to be in a better routine. You're probably going to make better choices for less processed foods. And then overall, you're going to live a generally better lifestyle. So that's the way you want to think about it. None of these, if you just do one of these things, they're not always going to have a massive carryover. But if you start going to the gym and lifting 3 times a week, that's the thing that's going to have the biggest carryover, because it's most likely going to get you to solve all these other wee things. And sometimes it's as a byproduct. You haven't even meant to sleep better. Just going to the gym has tired you out a bit better. It's got you in a better routine, and that's why you're sleeping better. So it's going to have a much higher impact than food, but it's also going to make you more likely to eat better as well. So yeah, gym over food. Even though this is a food podcast, lifting and gym over food. Yeah, you can do cardio and all that, but that's not what this is about. I'm not anti-cardio at all. Do cardio myself. I'm actually running more than I'm lifting myself. But for strictly gym beginners who come from dieting backgrounds and are obsessed with the scale, we want to be looking at this as, instead of being obsessed with the scale, I want you to be obsessed with learning how to lift. There's a free program that you can get in the description below. It's on the description of all my podcasts for the gym. And focusing on your strength rather than what you weigh is one of the best things you can do if you've been coming from a yo-yo dieting background. Right, so your nutrition. People seem to have these ideas that their nutrition is absolutely fucked. They're like, do you know what? I've zero control over myself around food. I can't control myself around the cupboards. And a lot of these things are, one, based off how they speak to themselves, and two, based off around what they sort of do. So I don't want to go too much into like intermittent fasting and stuff like that right now, because I'm going to cover that when I go through the weeks, because we have this massive idea that there's always going to be something out there that people are promoting, whether it's intermittent fasting, keto, or whatever. I'm not anti any of these things. However, most people don't have a big enough understanding or a broad enough range of information that they've read, or good enough knowledge, or have put these things into practice enough in order to have a good enough relationship with themselves and food to use the likes of intermittent fasting or keto in a healthy way. They're not like you. So if you take the example, when I tried intermittent fasting, right, I'd lost weight quite a few times just from avoiding food, right? I was overweight all throughout my childhood, and when I would lose weight, it was just from avoiding food. Like disordered eating written all over it, but not an eating disorder, because I wasn't anorexic or bulimic or anything like that. I didn't have eating disorder symptoms, but I had massively disordered eating, and the way I thought about food was quite frankly fried. I didn't have any knowledge whatsoever, right? And I stumbled across intermittent fasting, and all I ended up doing was avoiding food for like as long as like 6 hours during the morning when I first woke up, and then none of my choices made any sense really after that. It's just like, oh, I was intermittent fasting. And yes, some people might have a higher knowledge than that, but there's so many people who don't, and they need a period of just like this is what this podcast is, fixing their gap in knowledge with food, and fixing how they view food, fixing what their expectations are from the food they eat, and just coming at things from like building a base level of knowledge and changing what their expectations are. So that's what this 4-week period is. And 4 weeks, by the way, it's not a lot of time. It really isn't. I get like, so this is like the first 4 weeks I do with clients, but we most likely continue this exact same sort of way of looking at things for the next 12, 16, 24 weeks. So like 4 or 5 months, because some people have deeply fried, embedded thought patterns around food, and it can take a while to break them down. And if you just go into it going, right, I'm just going to count my calories and try to lose weight, and you haven't fixed those thought patterns, you don't know where they come from, then you're probably going to shoot yourself in the foot. You might lose weight, and every time you lose weight and gain it back and don't go to the gym and don't look after yourself, the more and more you demoralize yourself, and the more and more your thought patterns get more embedded into you, that you think you're a failure, you can't do it, yada, yada, yada. And most of the time, it comes from just refusing to do what you know you would maybe really help you, because that's too obsessive or that's too much for me to do at this point, when really it's putting the pain you're going through, you're seeing it as avoiding pain, but you're just putting even more pain into the future for you to continue experiencing. So with that being said, the way you eat currently right now isn't that far away from being a pretty good diet. You want to look at this as adapting the way you currently eat. We're not trying to follow a meal plan or anything like that. We're trying to follow very sort of broad numbers, which I'll go through on the week one. And we're just trying to make small, tiny changes in your habits, and understanding why those changes have been made, and we're trying to do it one step at a time. You can't, if you regularly eat breakfast, lunch and dinner, and then now you're skipping breakfast and you're snacking loads, like, it's just too much. And on top of focusing on the gym as well, it can be overwhelming. So some people, it might actually be better if you just focus on the gym for like 6 weeks, then start diving into your food, and try to fix that at the same time once the gym has stopped sort of overwhelming you, because you can't fix everything at once. This is what I tell clients as soon as they come on. They're like, I really want to fix my diet, and I'm like, one, tell me what fixing your diet really looks like. And they're like, not going over my calories. And I'm like, well, that's probably not possible. You're going to go over your calories sometimes. Maybe down the line you'll go over them slightly less, or when you do go over them, it'll be by a smaller amount. But maybe the reason you're doing that is because you're trying to go too low in calories. So all the terms people use, like, my diet's fucked, I need to fix my diet, you're probably not that far off. 1 to 3 quite substantial changes, as in just hitting where people go wrong the most, might just be the 3 changes you need, and you might be there. And I'm being serious. Like, there might just be 2 things that you're doing. Like, for me, I was eating a bowl of bran flakes at night and in the morning, and I didn't know what, I just thought bran flakes were good. When I tracked food for the first time, there were 600 calories in those bowls, because they were huge bowls. I just went, bran, good. Something to do with fibre, I've heard's good. Can't be bad. And I would just eat massive bowls of it. So that was 1,200 calories, 0 protein, didn't fill me up whatsoever. And that was like, whatever, nearly half of my calories on just like the end and the start of the day. And I would eat like quite a lot during the day as well. But this is what I mean, there's a massive knowledge gap. And that's why I do make sure that people are aware that there's nothing that will teach them more than at least going through treat it like a an intensive course, right? 30 days of tracking absolutely everything and trying to hit goals without expectations. So your goal is to just track the food and try hit the goals. Some of these structures that I've gave you are to help you hit those goals. And once you do that, you'll learn more than any book, any podcast. So the structure I'm going to give you, when you go do this yourself, you'll learn 20 times more than what you'll learn on this podcast. I'm almost giving you tools. I'm like, go and use them. You'll learn way more than just listen to me and your ear balls. So your ear holes, should I say. But yeah, what you're wanting to do is just not overwhelm yourself. You don't have to quote unquote fix everything. You don't have to completely change the way you eat. You can listen to all these different fucking doctors promoting all of this stuff. And let me tell you, my missus is a doctor. I've listened to plenty of her friends and the way they treat nutrition, and some of it is awful. Some of it is terrible. One of our friends has a PT who tells him not to eat carbs, and he tries to follow that advice, but goes out for dinner like 5 times a week. You know, sometimes just because someone has a label doesn't mean that they know everything about everything. Doctors specialise in things, and the things that they don't specialise in, they're not the centre of the universe that knows everything about the universe, which some people seem to treat them like. You know, there's chiropractors out there telling you that carbs are going to, ruin your life essentially, so they can sell something. This is more of a very broad advice, and then you get the tools and you can go and use it, and you'll learn more than any of this shit that you'll see online. Anyway, into the next one. I just want to quickly touch on emotional eating, right? So previous podcast, we done one on how to navigate Christmas. See, if you're going on holiday or something, go and listen to that, because it's the same. Christmas, Easter, holidays, anything like that. It's all the sort of same advice. It's all trying to stop you from feeling guilty, and also preventing the guilt feeling, which often comes from actually overdoing it because of what you're telling yourself in your head that you deserve it, yada, yada, yada. And that comes from usually thinking you don't deserve it the rest of the time, and that you need to over-restrict yourself. But, so I don't want to dive right into emotional eating because I've touched it so many times. However, if there's a brand new audience listening to this, and I've gave you these sort of vague goals, you're not going to hit these goals straight away. You're going to maybe go over them, you're going to come under them, you're going to feel like you can't hit the protein goals, they're too far ahead, and you're just going to be like, I'm a failure, whatever. Everybody emotionally eats. Everybody has things come up in life that they don't expect. Everybody has a bad day at work. Everybody has been spoken to like shit by someone they didn't expect to speak to them like shit. And everyone uses food as a vice. And if they don't use food as a vice, they probably use something else that is some sort of short-term pleasure to get over it. Some people resort to drink. Some people resort to drugs. Obviously, food is probably a better thing to turn to than that. Some people use the gym. Some people go out a run. Some people online shop. I know that my missus, when she does night shifts, she's an online shopper, and that's the thing she struggles with. So we all cope with our emotions, and a lot of us use food to do that. I'm a personal trainer. I've told this, well, not this story because it's not one specific time. It happens multiple times. But the biggest reason I have emotionally, let's say in 2023 last year, I can think of multiple times, is when a client has been a bit of a dick to me, maybe a bit rude, or I don't really bother when people don't stick to what I've given them, because that's my job to try work out why that's happened and then come up with a solution after that. But I've had the odd person, be pretty rude to me or just say something I wasn't expecting, and it just, kind of, I had one guy, this was like 2 or 3 years ago, so I can tell this story, right? Listen to this. I'd one I had one guy. So any PT will know this. See, when you first start, you have to work with sort of everyone. As you get further into your career, you can be a bit more picky, right? So these days, there was a few things on this guy's application form where I would have probably said, you know what, mate, I don't think we'll be too good together. But he was bipolar, right? And we weren't trying to lose weight at the start, but he wasn't able to stick to the calorie goals. Was trying to figure out why and stuff. And I'd never gave someone more attention. Like I'd never like had so much back and forth with someone in my life. And then I think one day I didn't reply as quick, which I don't set the expectation of that I'll be quick at replying every time. You know, I've got a business to run. I speak to my clients most days. And he went, I don't think, I've got new goals and I don't think you're taking them seriously. And I was like, because I don't really let clients set goals because they're often mental. Like I'll let them set goals after we've been on for like 4 or 6 weeks and they get a sort of grasp of what they're actually capable of. But some people will be like, I want to lose 2 stone in 10 weeks. I'm like, why? Because you won't. I obviously don't say it like that, but that's the only reason I ask what people's goals are, is so I can see where their head's at, and then I can bring down their expectations, because we want to do this long term. Short term goals are probably going to end up in short term results. But anyway, he went, I've set new goals and I don't think you're taking them seriously. And I was like, you didn't tell me you set new goals, but what are they? And he sent me back a picture of Zac Efron saying he had a dad bod. And I was like, that's tipped me today. That's definitely tipped me. I mean, I've been going to the gym for 6 years and I'm in nowhere near as good shape as Zac Efron, and the guy is definitely on gear. And seeing these situations, I would maybe shut my laptop. I would go to Aldi. I would get low-calorie ice cream. I actually like the low-calorie ice cream, so that's why I choose that. I'd maybe pick up something else, like some popcorn or something, just whatever tickles my fancy. So as a personal trainer, you might think, oh, he's being an arsehole. I'm just telling you what, like, as a personal trainers will know what I'm talking about. It's a hard, this is why I speak about, we need to, because I don't emotionally react in the moment to those things. I might go away and just be like, take a little bit to think, and then I'll come back. But it can be quite hard when people are throwing these random expectations at you that aren't possible, and people can blame you if like they feel like they're not making progress, even though they're not sort of like sticking to things that will make them progress. I never come at it from telling them, look, that's your responsibility to do that. I don't think that really works. But I kind of dig deep into like why they maybe haven't managed to do things, then maybe scale things back, that sort of thing. But it can be quite emotional, and you're also taking on people's stuff all the time. People can be in dire situations. Sometimes you can be in that sort of job role where you're taking on a lot of other people's shit. You try not do it, but it's quite hard sometimes. So I emotionally eat as a personal trainer who helps people with their diet. It's normal. So these 4 weeks where you're trying to like build a base level knowledge and you're trying to improve your diet and you're trying to hit calorie goals, you're trying to up your protein intake, you're trying to eat more fruit and veg, you can't predict what's going to happen in those first 4 weeks. You can't predict what's going to happen in the next 6 months after that. You're going to have situations where you might want to turn to food. However, you might get better down the line at choosing better food to turn to, because I can actually emotionally eat, I don't know, like a Wagamama's, do you know, instead of 2 massive bits of chocolate, I can actually emotionally eat on something that I can emotionally eat on just an amount of something. So even if it was a cooked dinner, but it was something I really wanted and I really thought would make me feel better, it doesn't always have to be, because good food that is, or not good, but like food that's closer to hitting your goals can also satisfy you emotionally as well. So it doesn't have to be that I want to turn to chocolate, because that's more sort of like also self-sabotaging yourself, and that's where you're going to go down a route where you know you're going to talk to yourself badly and feel horrendous after it. You're already telling yourself before, you're like, I'm going to feel horrendous after this chocolate. Whereas I'll go in, even if I get the ice cream, I bang that. I watch It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, I bang popcorn, and say I buy like a smaller dairy milk, I bang that. I'm like 500 calories over my limit for that day, but I know that I might weigh more on the scale the next day, then it'll come back down. I know the next day, once I usually sleep, if I'm in a mood, when I go to bed, I usually wake up in the morning in a better mood, and I just treat that day like nothing happened the day before. I don't berate myself for it, and it's the berating yourself and really feeding into that guilt that will cause you to emotionally eat even more. So you've got the event that might make you do something emotionally, maybe that's going to be food, but then what you do after emotionally eating is where the problem is, because then you can continue emotionally because of what you're saying to yourself, or you can just be like, cool, that actually made me feel better in the moment. The ice cream makes me feel better. It makes me stop thinking about what happened. Like if clients said something ridiculous to me, it makes me stop thinking about it. It makes me, that's why we do it. That's why people drink alcohol. That's why people take drugs. It relieves you from what you're thinking about, but there's no need to berate yourself from that. That's kind of normal behavior. And if used in a like non-extreme way, it can actually be like a positive thing. Like emotional eating it doesn't have to be this really destructive behavior. Obviously everyone's on different parts of that spectrum, but it doesn't have to be that destructive. Now, what was the last thing I was going to say on this, because I think I had quite a lot, and this was quite good. Yeah, so even with food, perfectionism doesn't exist. It's never going to be perfect. You're going to have ups and downs with food. You're just trying to be consistently a bit better. You're trying to be closer to the goals, and see if you even just pay attention to those goals, that'll be enough for you to be consistently better. Trust me, just treat it as a work in progress. You'll never, because it's so vague, and because it can be so up and down, and because you don't, with your food, you can't just be like, right, I feel better today, because you don't know if you feel better. You often don't know until you start eating worse again that you were feeling better. So trust me, just by even being on tracking these things and trying to hit more protein and trying to hit more fruit and veg, your diet will be better. Like it will. It won't be perfect. It never will be perfect either. So let's get into how I structure the first 4 weeks of food intake with clients so they can hit these goals. So on week 1, right, by this stage, I fucking hate calorie calculators. I hate them with a passion. People seem to think that is now there. Like it comes up like they should be, one, they can input too many things. So like they can choose how much weight they should lose a week, and they're going to choose the highest, obviously. And then it gives them these ridiculously absurd low calorie goals, and they're not going to be able to stick to it. It doesn't know enough about you. There's no nuance. It doesn't come with an hour-long podcast that explains what a calorie goal actually is, and like all of the stuff I'm going through. I absolutely detest them. I hate them. I hate people promoting them. But I done it at the start, and I just seen how fried people got over them, and that's why I hate them. I would rather spend an hour talking about it. I would rather get 100 times less views, but the people that listen to this actually come out going, do you know what, my calorie goal is nowhere near as important as I used to think it was. At this point, I literally give guys and girls the same calorie and protein goals when they come on, and then I change things if I feel like they need to be changed. And all clients, even if they want to lose weight, because I'm targeting the same sort of people that come from yo-yo dieting backgrounds, and even like other, I know a lot of coaches don't do this because they're more inclined to do what the client wants. But I'm honestly thinking long term, being in their shoes, working with people and seeing what short term weight loss does for people, it doesn't usually fix what their issues are. So I put people on what's called maintenance calories, right? And I might be a bit off with these, but that's how I get them to track their weight and stuff like that. And then I can see if I was maybe off, but most of the time they just can't hit the goals yet, which is what I'm expecting to happen, right? So on week one, if you're a woman, I'd put you on 2,000 calories and 100 to 150 grams of protein. If you're a man, I'll put you on either 2,500 or 2,600, 150 to 200 grams of protein. And then I'm also expecting both genders, or whatever gender you are, non-binary or whatever, that's the first time I've said that without being sarcastic, because I don't care about that whole fucking thing anymore. Like, I'm done with people debating about that shit as well. Just do whatever you want, that's fine. And also just stop arguing about it, no one cares. So the calorie goals and the protein goals, the fruit and veg goals, if you can hit them, your diet's going to be sorted, but you're probably going to struggle to hit them in the beginning. A lot of people have a mind block on going up to maintenance, and what I would say to these people is you can eat way more calories than you think and stay the same weight. So because people have only ever really tracked when they're trying to lose weight, 2,000 to a woman, for some reason, more so for women, that sounds like a ridiculous amount of calories. 2,000 calories isn't that much, especially if you don't make good choices. Like a Domino's would be 2,000 calories. That's all you'd be able to eat that day. But once you add in a protein goal and some fruit and veg, that quickly turns into a bit more food. But even if you go, oh, I'm 5 foot, or I'm not that active, one, we're going to try get you a bit more active by going to the gym. Not crazy active, just a small increase, going to the gym like 3 times a week. That's what the free plan is, 3 times a week. If you could only do 2, just do 2. But all I would say to these people is just try it. I bet you 99% of you out there will be able to eat that amount of calories and not gain weight. You might initially have a wee spike on the scale, maybe between a half a kilo and a kilo, and then it will probably level out unless you're massively mistracking. But give yourself 2 weeks to let that sort of level out. Give yourself 2 weeks to be more consistent with your food, because remember, if you're trying to hit 2,000 calories and then first day you hit 1,500, then 1,800, then 2,000, then maybe you go over 2,200, to 2,200 one day, then maybe you're back down to like 1,700, and you're starting to get closer to that goal, like more consistent at it, then your weight's going to be all over the shop, which is fine, but it's because you're eating different amounts of food every day, because you're also weighing what's inside you at the same time. So give that scale 2 weeks to sort of level out, let it go up and down, it's fine. Your like self-esteem ultimately shouldn't be coming from what you weigh, and even if it was going down the way, you should not be viewing yourself as a person based off of what you weigh. It's not that important. It really isn't. And even though a lot of people listening to this will be wanting to lose weight, I'm trying to give you a platform where you could lose weight and keep it off, because your relationship with food and your knowledge of food is good enough for you to understand that you have to eat less calories for a little while, but then after you have to up them and eat in maintenance and keep some sort of accountability there and have a long-term goal so you enjoy doing that as well, which is why I'm so big on the gym. Anyway, on the first week, all I want you to do is try track everything though. So treat it, like I said, as like a crash course almost, where you're tracking absolutely everything. Allow for mistakes. So common mistakes, people like measuring cups, but they're just like, they've got a fucking teacup and they're putting like, how do you know what's in that? How do you know that cup is what a cup is on MyFitnessPal? Get a scale, they're like 10 quid. Do everything in grams. Even though this might be quite a lot of work in the first 2 weeks, this is a skill. as you get better at the skill, just like something when you first started a job, it took you, I don't know, whatever it was, 3 hours to do a task your boss gave you, and then by the end of it, you're doing it within like half an hour because you know exactly what to do. This is the same. Tracking is piss easy for me because I've done it for quite a while. It doesn't involve any mental stress, but it will at the start. But that's what the crash course is for, because you'll learn more than anything else. No book, podcast, or anything is going to teach you as much as tracking for 4 weeks will. Nothing out there. Or it's not even that. It's going to show you where your habits are. It's going to show you where you've been potentially using so many of your calories on different foods that you never knew before. And it's going to give you accountability. No book, no podcast, no anything can do that for you. So that first week, just try get closer to the goals. You'll start seeing, oh, there's not anywhere near as much protein as I thought was in that. Why is it labelled high protein? Supermarkets can label things however they want. It doesn't mean that it says what it says it has in it, because supermarkets and the branding in supermarkets are massively off to get you to buy it. It doesn't represent what's actually in it. So you'll get better at just like scanning things and going, okay, Kellogg's are full of shit, or allegedly. So yeah, just track. That's all I want you to do on week 1. Don't worry about anything else. Anything else will just overwhelm you at this point. Once you've got a week of tracking in the bag, we're on to week 2. Right, so week 2, all I'm trying to get people to do, this is going to sound so simple, is have a high protein breakfast. And I often tell clients that I want you to come up with a breakfast and have the same thing every day. See if you do get bored down the line. But I've actually never had a client come and say, I'm bored of the first breakfast I came up with. And the ones who are, without telling me, will just change it to something else and then have that one the first time. So you want to get to the point where the first thing and by the way, I'm going to touch on the fact, I don't eat in the morning, I'm an intermittent faster. By the way, again, I've got nothing against intermittent fasting, but the majority of people using it out there aren't in a good enough position, like mentally, aren't doing enough of the other things that have an actual impact, because intermittent fasting is just a tool to allow you to eat less calories. Most of you don't have the relationship, well, not most of you, as if I'm actually like berating people that listen to this podcast, just most people in general. That's why people struggle to lose weight and keep it off. They don't have the base level of a relationship with food in order to use intermittent fasting in a way that is actually good in it for a short term sort of weight loss phase where they bring their calories back up after. So it often turns into, I change the way people think about intermittent fasting, and I'm like, you're probably more likely intermittent binging. It turns into, how long can you avoid food for to eat whatever you want after that? And people get having a good relationship with food mixed up. They think having a good relationship with food means that they can eat anything without guilt. Having a good relationship with food is also knowing what food is not worth it, what overconsumption is not worth it, and what is going to make you feel guilty, because that guilt feeling is there for a reason, because you've overate when you don't necessarily have to. But a good relationship with food will also look like someone who can go out for dinner and overeat, but they wanted to go out for dinner. They wanted to go out for dinner with their friends. They haven't seen their friends in a while. They wanted the pizza, and they know that it isn't that big a deal in the grand scheme of things. They know that a temporary scale weight spike doesn't mean that much. That's more what a good relationship with food is. A good relationship with food isn't just being able to gain weight over and over and over again and be overweight and fine with it. Because that's just like that's like just masking something. That's just like pretending, if you know what I mean. Like, you have to actually embody this stuff, otherwise you're just faking it, and you'll know that you're faking it, and you'll still feel, there'll still be emotional turmoil inside you with food, with everything. So you can, people, there's plenty of people trying to fake it, but they know themselves that it's not, they're not in a good place with it. So I'm trying to get people to actually be in a good place. Now, with the high protein breakfast, right, I'll give you some examples. So mine's is, I have like, so it can be between 400 to 800 calories. Don't worry too much about where you end up. If it ends up being too much calories, change the portion sizes around so it's lower calories if it's, you feel like that's too much for you. But mine's is up probably about 650. I have like 100 grams of oats, then I throw in a high protein yogurt. There's these Graham's ones that are 25 grams of protein for like 140 calories. I throw that in. Then I put in about 100 to 150 mils of semi-skim milk, and then a banana, and then I mix it all around. It's not that great. Some people are, I'm not that great. I don't know how to make really good oats, but this tastes quite good to me. And when it becomes a bit stodgy, I actually quite like it like that. James, who you see on the podcast, ate 200 grams of oats in just hot water the other day in front of me, and I was like, I'm doing pretty good with my oats, because that is fucking disgusting. It was rank in a massive bowl, just carbs with no fucking flavour. Oh my god, it was disgusting. I don't like oats heated up, heated up, whatever the fuck the right English is. But see, oats, man, when they're warm, the like porridge, I don't know, I don't like it, right? But so this is mine. I have that in the gym. Every time I work in the gym, I have that. We've got oats, bananas, and we all have protein yogurts in the fridge. We all eat quite a lot of similar foods. So that's one other thing that I'm not touching in this podcast. Your food environment is so important. And we all eat similar foods. So like, we don't even have to really go to the shops, because we just eat each other's, because we all buy the same stuff. It's pretty much just whatever's in the fridge, we'll just be eating it basically and putting together meals. But yeah, there's other sort of things you can do. So you could have like a bagel and bacon medallions if you've got more time to cook. You could have like a protein shake, and you could put like milk, ice cubes, and like frozen fruit in it, so it tastes quite nice. You're trying to think about this first meal, right? So this is why I don't have like bacon medallions and stuff. I'm not cooking in the morning. You want this to take as little time, as little thought, and as little, you want this to mentally stress you out as little as possible. You want to just get to the point where I can just throw that stuff in a bowl. Within a minute, it's there. Within 10 minutes, it's in my mouth, and then I'm on with my day, and I've had a good first meal that sets me up for the day. A lot of the times when people think they have no control over food, so many of these people hardly eat throughout the day, and that's why they raid their cupboards at night. So at least when I'm thinking about the most substantial changes you can make, eating a good first meal with protein in it and a bit of veg, and it's not processed, is a great start. There you go. That's something that's going to stop you trying to like being like, oh, I'm too busy, I'm working. You could even do like one of my things that I done for a while was 2 protein yogurts and a banana, because that involved zero prep. I just brought it with me wherever I was. So whatever it is, come up with that. There's an onus of this to be on you. I'm not sending you recipe links or anything like that. Please don't fucking ask me. I'd rather shoot myself in the face. So come up with something. First meal, bang. I just tried to say bing, bang, and bosh in one go, and I said bye. So yeah, anyway, there you go. There's week 2. Week 3, following on from the last theme. 2 high protein dinners. Again, don't need to be specific with the goals, about 400 to 800 calories, 30 to 60 grams of protein. We're feeling wild, we'll up it from 50, right? I try to stress this, it's not that deep, right? It's really not that deep. And remember I said you probably won't hit the calorie goal and the protein goal, and it's going to be and I forgot to say this, but it's going to be a case of you most likely working up to those calorie goals and protein goals, because you might not be able to hit the protein goal at the start. You'll think it's too far away from you. The breakfast will help you and the dinner will help you, and then from there it might just be a case of stick a protein yogurt in there somewhere in your day, stick a protein shake in there somewhere in your day, or change the portion sizes around in one of your meals. But with the dinners, right, you're coming at this the exact same way as you come at the breakfast. Food, you want your food environment to involve as little thinking as possible, and it's like we have this thing that we have to have mental toughness or willpower to avoid very highly palatable and bingeable foods around us. So like if I came in this podcast, right, and there was a celebration box next to me on my right and a celebration box next to me on my left, I honestly have one of the best relationships with food out of everyone I know. Do you know what I would do if there were celebrations there and there? Throughout this podcast, I would eat them because they're there and they're highly palatable and enjoyable dopamine spiking foods. So over time, you're wanting to have less of those around the house, but also not banning yourself from them ever. You're not banned from any of these foods. It's what I'm going to go through in week 4. You're not banned from them, but you also don't want to have them in front of your face all the time, taunting yourself, going, do you have the willpower not to eat these foods? Probably not. You're not a fucking sociopath, mate. Celebrations in front of your face, you're going to eat them because they're delicious. Apart from the Milky Ways aren't the best, the Twixes aren't the best, but the Maltesers, mate, the Maltesers in the celebrations, you're a sociopath if you can avoid eating them. Now, these 2 high protein dinners, you might have to, if you've got other people to cook for, you might have to consider other people when you make this, but I'll give you some examples. My missus slags me because oftentimes when I cook for myself, I'm making fajitas, mate, because it's so easy. I don't need to think at all, and I like them. And sometimes I can put a wee bit of cheese on them and just give myself some satisfaction, because I like cheese and I don't eat it that often. I'm not banned from it, I just don't think about it because I only like it melted. So it has to go in a fajita and I have to put it back in the microwave, but then it's melted and it's delicious. But fajitas involve no thinking for me. I've been making them for like 6 years. I'm a pretty solid fajita maker. Not that it's difficult, and I enjoy them. They get the job done in and out of the kitchen in as little time as possible, which is what is most important to me. And even if you do enjoy cooking, you're probably, who the fuck has time to cook for an hour or 2 hours a day? Mental cases on chefs. That's it. So you want to be in and out of the kitchen as little time as possible, as little thinking, as little having to go to the shop as well, because that's a massive task. Shopping, I don't like that as well. I'm not a fan of the old food shopping. I want to go in to Tesco. I don't want to think about it. Throw a few things in the basket and get the fuck out of there. I don't know about you, but I don't want to be fucking thinking about. That's a conversation I had with Aoife the other day. Do you know what she done to me? I was looking after the dog, right? And she sent me this slow cooker recipe. I don't know how to fucking use a slow cooker. I know it's simple, right? But I've never used it, and I was working that day and looking after the dog. I didn't get annoyed at her. However, I got very stressed for like 15 minutes. I was looking at the ingredients. 15 ingredients. Sorry. I'm a 6 ingredient max man. Otherwise it's not getting done. There was something on it called fennel. I don't know what fennel seeds are. I don't even know if it's a seed. It looked like a seed. And I was like, I just texted back saying, I'm making pesto chicken pasta. Because fennel has tipped me over the edge. And I shall never be cooking anything with fennel in it ever again. Not even just fennel. He wanted me to crush the fennel. Those are two things I'm not willing to do. I'm not willing to find where she stocks the fennel in the kitchen, and I'm not willing to find whatever she crushes the fennel with, because that's too much for me, and that's enough to put someone off cooking a decent meal. So you want to come up with the easiest and less mentally, the least mentally straining dinners possible. And for me, I've got about 5. I think I've got fajitas. Sometimes I can make a burrito as well. That's pretty good. Pesto chicken pasta. Then any sort of chicken pasta. And then spag bol. And then if I'm cooking, right, I'll make about 3 or 4 portions. I'm not a big meal prep guy, but if I'm making 3 or 4, she might have, if there's 3, it's lucky dip who gets the one the next day. Whoever's working the most, basically, out of me and Aoife will get it. And I don't like eating like things 2 days later out a tub as well. It's disgusting. There's a lot of dislikes in my life, and I have to work around them, as you've probably noticed. But reheated chicken isn't the one for me. Spag bol's alright, but then the pasta gets like change. Why does the pasta do that? So yeah, I'm not a big fan of reheating food either, so I've worked around those things. But I would say most of my dislikes, other people are in the same boat, and that's why they actually go for the even easier option, where they get a takeaway or whatever. So you're trying to make this as easy as possible. You're not trying to uphaul all the way you eat everything. So yeah, week 3, 2 high protein dinners, then you've got a high protein breakfast as well, and we're on to a winner. Week 4, the simplest one. So simple. Add 2 fruit and veg in to your day. At any point you can eat them together, you can space them out as snacks, and there's lots to touch on. Well, not lots to touch on, but there's a reason now we've came to this point, and I have genuinely thought all of it through. There's a reason I haven't told you not to eat anything, right? So 2 fruit, apple and banana is probably the most simple one, and the most likely for people not to have a disagreement about, because most people can tolerate an apple and a banana. Guess what? If you don't like banana, fuck a pear in there. But find two fruit. There's these fruit salad things that are only £1 out of Aldi, and it's like apple, pineapple, and grapes. I just have 2 of them sometimes, because I enjoy the variety, rather than just chewing in an apple and banana, like being like, oh, I thought I was going to pick up a pineapple, but I picked up a grape. A clock when I eat. But that's so simple. You can change these. You can get the same ones. You can stock apples and bananas in the house. You can stock pears or whatever. But now, I forgot to mention, in the dinners, by the way, put 2 veg in the dinner as well. So like peppers and onions, so easy. Stick them in the dinner. Or carrots. And that's you hit 2 veg and 2 fruit. Now, all we have to do is try to get some other veg or fruit in that day, and you've also hit 5 of those. Sometimes, do you know what? See, if you're making spag bol and it's tomatoes, that probably counts. You don't need to be too exact with this 5 fruit and veg as well. Or I actually say 5 to 10 fruit and veg, because some people are like, can I have 6? Yes, you can have 6. You're not going to die because you had a bit of leftover lettuce, and you went over your 5 fruit and veg. Like I say, you don't need to be that strict with any of these things. It doesn't really matter as much as we think it does, day to day anyway, or decision to decision with our food intake. But all that being said, right, so you got the high protein breakfast, the high protein dinner. They're easy. You can cycle them. They're on repeat. You don't need to think about it. Then you've got the 2 fruit and veg on top of the 2 fruit. On top of the veg, you've then now got 4 fruit and veg at least. I haven't said cancel anything out, but you're now going to be at a point where there or thereabouts 70 to 80% of your food intake is going to be less processed than it was. It's going to be higher in protein, so it's going to fill you up more. It's going to satiate you a lot more, and you're going to have a lot more vitamins and minerals and all of that good stuff from the extra like sort of fruit and veg that you're now having. And that is enough change for your diet to be pretty fucking good. And without you having to go, right, I'm banned from chocolate, I'm banned from all of these things, you're going to have a little bit of calories left over, instead of the way when you get people to track food at the very beginning without any sort of like structure. They'll just like spend like 800 calories on like just chocolate, non-filling stuff, just stuff that just is the convenience food that's right there. Usually chocolate, I'd see that people like will often spend like 600 calories on chocolate when they don't have any real knowledge of food and they're just trying to track. So it'll get you away from that without you being banned from it. So you'll be able to still have like a wee dairy milk, like a 200 calorie dairy milk if you wanted to. You'll often find the more and more you get into this, and the better you feel, the longer you do it for, the less that food will actually be appealing, because you are satisfied from this way of eating, and you're satisfied in a different way. You're satisfied by the way it makes you feel. And like I said, you probably won't notice until you start bringing in, or you start like, because this will happen, you'll maybe start going back into old habits, or your partner will convince you to get a takeaway even though you don't really want it. And this is one of the most common things when people come on with me as a client. They maybe get 6, 8, 10, 12 weeks in, right? It happens all the time. And they go, I had a Chinese this weekend and I didn't like it. And I go, why? And they go, because I felt fucking horrendous after it. And I've no science to back this up, but from my anecdotal experience with myself and clients, it's because they constantly felt, maybe not shit, but just say subpar. And now, for the first time, they've felt consistently better for longer than they ever have done before, because they've been focusing on the gym and their nutrition has improved quite a bit. Still not been perfect. They didn't realise how bad they were feeling because they've never felt as good as what they're feeling just now. And again, it's not some euphoric feeling. You're not, just because you went to the gym and improved your food habits, you aren't now indestructible to any of life's boulders that it throws at you. But you will generally feel better, and you will, do you know what? You will be more inclined to deal with these things better, because you've now got extra tools to deal with your emotions, like the gym, and you don't berate yourself for how you deal with things after. Again, these are long processes. Again, you won't feel like this from this podcast, but if you go and put these things into practice, then you will be better. So yeah, none of it was about cutting out any food. None of it was about having this perfect diet. None of it is about weight loss. I don't want you to think about weight loss this full time. I want you to treat it as like a crash course of giving yourself a baseline level of knowledge, of mental clarity, and of habits to build so that you can feel better long term. That's all I give a fuck about. I don't care about anything to do with how you look in 6, 10, 12, 6 months time. I care about you 5, 10. I care about people for the rest of their life being in a better position with themselves, with food, with exercise, everything. So yeah, I think we'll wrap it up there. Thank you very much for listening. If you haven't yet rated the podcast, please do it. We'll try to hit 500. I'm on 211. I'm pretty sure I'll hit 500. I feel like I'm going to be a very established podcaster this year. Get myself up the ranks, just purely for the ego, to be honest. But yeah, thank you for listening, and I'll catch you in the next one. See you later.